All right, joining me now, as he always does on a Tuesday, Sky News Political Editor Andrew Clennell. Andrew, welcome. A lot I want to get across tonight. We're going to start with tax. We probably all know it, but we're paying more tax than ever. Australians are paying 30% more over the last 10 years than they were. $2,000 in real terms per annum, a big jump in those payments. We'll put those numbers on the screen. Interestingly, though, our debt's never been higher. Our government spending's never been greater. And a lot of this now, as you can see in the budget macro, it's individuals who are carrying more of the tax load year on year and not other payers, taxpayers like corporates. This is the real worry as families and income earners are squeezed ever more.
Well, it is. We're all paying a lot of income tax and bracket creep takes it away from us. And dare I say, Peter, that one of the soccer dads mentioned this to me on the weekend. I think it's one that resonates out there. And, you know, not many of those soccer dads were happy with Jim Chalmers' budget, but they'll be more happy if they get the stage 3. So I think we will see the stage 3. I think the government will be hoping inflation is tempered by then. That's the big test. And I think it might even be expanded to include some more lower to middle income tax earners. So I reckon that's where the government will go. And I think the opposition will do the same. I think they will offer greater tax cuts than the stage 3 when it comes to election time.
I think they'll hit they'll go down a bracket from stage 3. I think they'll go to that middle Australia bracket. You know, we've heard that phrase. You were one of the first other blocks to pick it up yesterday. I made the point last night, like clearly there's been a come to Jesus moment with the pollster for Labor over the weekend. They would have seen the first cut of numbers coming out of budget week. I can tell you that they do poll and focus group all the way through budget week from the Tuesday night in the delivery of the speech and ongoing. But they must have been in a lot of trouble by the weekend because this whole reframing of the narrative, picking up Middle Australia yesterday, this is your soccer dad focus group. You heard on the weekend what the government must have heard as well.
Oh, but I mean, to be honest, Peter, you don't need to spend the 30 or 40 grand on a focus group to know that that budget missed the mark for Middle Australia. And I think it raises questions again about Jim Chalmers' political antenna. He's really from the Wayne Swan School. He's from Logan, as we know. He likes to tell us about it a lot. That's fair enough. That's all good. But he is producing budgets for all of Australia, not just Logan, and not just a safe Labor seat, or not just for the Labor base, the Labor membership, who, if there's a leadership ballot, he'll want to vote for him. So that's the danger with his political strategy. And for him to say Middle Australia 6 or 7 times in that press conference on Monday, well, you know, you just cringe a bit, don't you?
Tells you everything. Let's go to the detail out today. The government's own energy experts, Clean Energy Finance Corporation, says that we're all well behind the pace to hit the goal in 2030 of 82% renewables. They say, in fact, we need to spend $120 billion extra to get to that target. This is in real terms, and this will be hit with consumers. They'll get it all passed through to them. 40 new wind turbines every month, 22,000 new solar panels every day, and 28,000 kilometres of new transmission lines to get these targets met in 8 years. 120 billion, as I said, from the government's own advisory body, so I reckon it's a lot more than that. But even at 120 billion, Andrew, that's double the cost of the NBN. By my reckoning, it's equivalent to about 100 brand new teaching hospitals. So these are gargantuan costs. I'm going to stick my neck out here. There is no way we're going to meet this target in 2030. No way. I
don't think you're sticking your neck out that far there, Peter. But I do think it's interesting that Jim Chalmers at a business lunch today said the reform, the thing he was keenest on seeing through as Treasurer, was the energy transformation. So it seems they are going to turn their attention more to this, and may well they. We also had the on Ross Greenwood's show, Paul Broad, the former head of Snowy Hydro, saying there's no way they'll make that target. I guess the only good news for the government on that is 2030 is so far away that they'll never be held to account on it. That's the beauty of a long-term target, isn't it? But they want to get moving, and I was always cynical by Anthony Albanese's promise that private sector investment will do the job here. I think you need a lot more than that, and as you say, we pay for that. So, it's a big test for them, and I'd be surprised if they got there.
Chalmers better be careful. He's a young man. I don't think he's even 40 yet. No, he sees himself as PM. He could be in the realm of possibility come 2030, but we'll see what happens there. Hey, the departure today announced of the Australian Workers' Union Chief, Dan Walton. A bright light for common sense. He's certainly been out there at the forefront, upsetting some in the Labor movement, I know, but pushing on issues like nuclear power. He's talked about unprocessed critical minerals. He's concerned with sending them offshore. He says we should be manufacturing things here. We should keep that critical manufacturing capability in Australia. Out on radio this morning making the point. Have a listen.
What we're saying is to the government that you've got this great ambition that you want to be able to manufacture batteries in the country. We allow these minerals to be dug up, to be sent to China, for China to process them. Look, China is going to make the batteries in China and sell us the batteries that we'll need.
He's a rare voice of sanity on this stuff, isn't he?
Well, he is, but I don't think he'll get his way on his tax, and he's going out with a fiery statement. Be interesting to see where he ends up. Might well end up with a gas or manufacturing company because he's been pushing those two barrows. But he's saying not going into politics, and I think that's a loss for Labor.
Yeah, I think it's a loss for the country, to be honest. Let's talk about negative gearing. Labor's got a national conference in August. A whole lot of backbenchers say we're going to do something about negative gearing. Some want investment properties limited to one property per person. This is very much the same as the Greens policy. The Prime Minister says changes aren't on the table. Well, we've heard that before plenty of times. But is this rumblings, do you think, just cranky backbenchers, or do you think something real could happen here?
I don't think it will happen, but if it were to happen, they'd have to take it to an election. The only one they could probably get through isn't the 2019 policy to end negative gearing for new buyers. It is this one where more than one property you wouldn't be able to negatively gear. I think you could potentially get that through. But Albanese doesn't appear keen at all. And the backbenchers who are grumbling are people like Josh McNamara, who just won against the Greens by 100 votes. So you'd expect him to take, under assault by the Greens, that type of position. I really don't think there'll be movement here. Any controversial policy like that, Albanese will consider at election time to get a mandate for it, and he'll be very cautious. He's shown that all the way along.
Hey, just a quick one. I thought this was unusual. Stuart Robert, he's the federal MP, LNP they call it in Queensland, just announced he's retiring from the seat of Fadden in Queensland. Fadden's a safe seat, as much as the Libs have a safe seat anymore. He's telling colleagues reported today in the paper that he's not going to come back to Canberra when it returns to the Parliament. Parliament sits next week. He's not going to come back for that. He's not even going to come back for a valedictory speech. Now, this is why it's weird, because technically he's still being paid for, well, he's taking the taxpayer coin, he's still being paid for by taxpayers. I know he copped a caning in that whole robo-debt Royal Commission, fairly justified in my view, but why this rush for him to depart? I can't think of the last time an MP did make the farewell speech, can you?
No, I don't. I think robo-debt's got a lot to do with it, to be frank, and I think we'll see his resignation of the Parliament probably the first sitting day back. That would be my expectation. Speculation will then grow. Is Scott Morrison going to go at the same time, or do we have to cop two by-elections? And I'm really getting mixed messages on Scott Morrison, whether he has a job lined up or not. We know he's been looking. Suggestion to me, which I reported a couple of months ago, was he might have something lined up overseas. I've since heard that might have fallen through. So that'll be an interesting one to watch. Look, Anthony Albanese is going to be cheeky this week, and he's going to visit Fadden, probably tomorrow, I think. But it is 9 to 10%. Peter Dutton's confident about that. He was confident about Aston too. I think it could still be line ball, that seat, but I expect the coalition to hang on to it.
Talk to us about Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neill. She's revoked the visa of convicted former Al-Qaeda terrorism cell leader Abdul Nasser Ben Brika. But of course, if he's had his Australian visa revoked, it relies on his home country to take him back. Are we going to see this happen, do you think?
Well, it's a very good question. That's the hope of the government, but they haven't yet got agreement from Algeria to take him back. So he'll leave jail. He was accused of those terror plots in 2005, which we all remember, Sydney and Melbourne, and he'll go to immigration detention. He is also fighting this decision in the court. So far from the end of this saga. As you know, Peter, in a lot of these instances, the home country just refuses to take him. he could be in immigration detention for some time.
If I had my way, I'd fly a plane over there and just throw him out across Algeria in the desert, would leave him there and hope he lands safely. But I'm not in charge of immigration. There you go. Andrew Clennell, thank you.